Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, where I will be doing whatever I want. If you want content that targeted more towards you, then you should skip ahead to another video or another YouTube channel. English is my third language, so excuse me if I make some mistakes. This video will be talking about books. There's a lot of content on buying books and consumerism, so I'll try to keep this short and talk about what you should ask yourself, just as I ask myself. Why this book? Why am I buying it? Why am I reading it? So let me first tell you about my relationship with books throughout the years. There's gonna be 4 stories, so hold on. As a kid, I used to go and visit my uncle's house, and they had in their living room this big wall of just books. They were so beautiful and I was so fascinated by them. But the books, they were shut, and the heavier and most beautiful ones with the most beautiful covers were at the top and were hard to reach. That library had every single kind of book you could think of, about stories and literature in French and Arabic and English. It had about sciences, about anatomy, about physics, about mathematics, about mechanics. It had about almost everything, because he was just a really avid reader. And I was so obsessed with it, honestly. I would just go and visit them, and I would spend like an hour or so just watching the books, trying to figure out what each one was. But you see, another thing is that my uncle doesn't allow people to borrow his books, much less read them, which poses the question, what is the point of ownership, really? And so I had my dream of just building my own private library and having every single book that I ever read and would ever read, and it would just be right there in front of me, right there to be reached for. Later on, I would buy books and think I'd read them. Then a year would pass, 2, then 3, and while my to be read keeps growing, the number of books I'm actually reading and enjoying isn't that much. So I would just look at that book that has been sitting on my shelf for a while and think, am I actually going to read it? I mean, at the time, I was interested in that genre. I enjoyed it. But am I still as interested as I was? Do I still want to read it? For the second story, you see, I was sitting one day in my classroom in my high school, and my teacher noticed the book that I was reading. At the time, it was The Little Prince, and she just kept staring at it, and then she told me, you should read that book every 10 years or so, and you will learn something new each time that you do. Your experience will help you see that book with a new perspective. And I was so fascinated by the way that she said that, because it seemed like it was coming from her own experience, and it just brought up so many questions. So I said, okay, I'll hang on to it and think about it. It's been 10 years since then, and I read the book again. And honestly, she was right. I knew that I owned the book because of my dream, but then I wondered why I even picked it up and read it the first time. Perhaps it was for attention, or to simply say that I read it. I mean, teenagers. But when I read it this second time, it was set as the theory, and perhaps it was because of the reason that I picked it up again. that I just genuinely enjoyed it and felt touched by its contents and even impressed at times with its depth. And it made me wonder, had I read it the first time and been given that advice, would I read it again? Would I actually consider reading it? Does a book that is read first time out of a different reason than just to be read would be read again? For the third story, it was much earlier, at the beginning of the year 2025. I was depressed, and as I sometimes do, I just ran away and just sailed into this sea of ink. So many books, and so many were not healthy for me. I mean, some of those self-help books are just toxic. And I escaped reality until I read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte, which pulled me out of this book-sized life raft and into a warm hug. And I just really needed it, because that book kind of said, I understand. And I needed someone that understood. The story was first published in a magazine, and this makes me wonder if there were more stories like this in magazines and journals today. And we're not reading them. We are more likely to go for standalones or series or things that have nice book covers or things that we find on Book Talk and YouTube and this and that, and something that has more purpose than we would go for magazines and literary journals. But the problem is not that we're not reading, of course, because we do read. I mean, my theory is that we read too much at times. We read products, websites, news, subtitles. I mean, what's up with all of these Hollywood movies having such terrible audio? Music is louder than the own actors. We also read ingredients, and it's just almost too much that it pulls us away from reading for pleasure and for our enjoyment and relaxation rather than just for something. Now, this last story is more so subjective, but it could also apply to anyone around the world, because let's face it, the economical situation is insane. But in my country, buying books is a privilege that very few people have. So you could imagine why I was so fascinated by my uncle and his library. But the recent generation, being influenced by the West, they are more likely to buy certain books. As such, they place a great importance on the book talks and YouTube videos and influencers that recommend them books. And they're more likely to buy a book that they know and are certain they would enjoy it. Which is why they may not recognize some other books less spoken of, less known, and are not, I guess, read as much. Which is sad, because sometimes they genuinely are so much better. Now, I'm not saying that this means that the books on YouTube or Book Talk are necessarily bad or stuff like that, but we are more likely to enjoy something that is recognized and loved by a great amount of other people. It's not necessarily true, but this is how we most believe things. And we sometimes have a fear that we will not enjoy something if we don't hear people talk about it, if we don't see a 5-star review on Goodreads or on another book app, which is kind of fascinating, honestly. Because sometimes I think about the bad books that I read, which are not necessarily bad, but there are some bad books. And I would think, if I did not read those books, I don't think I would recognize a book that's actually good. A book that's well edited, that has been thought and planned on, or that has beautiful poetry and prose and something that has good world building or character development. And I believe that there can only be done by reading both good and bad books, and that good is subjective. Now, I know that this sounds like a lot of philosophical stuff, but I am saying this to explain why I have not bought a book in over 2 years, and I don't regret it. I have actually read more than I ever have. At last, I have come to the conclusion that something is only worth as much as you allow it to be. A book that exists in your library can be just that. It can just sit around and collect dust and just be for your own pleasure, enjoyment, and for you, I guess, to see and look at. But it also poses the question, why did I purchase? Why do I own this book? And a story can also be just a story. It can just sit and exist between folds of paper to be annotated, then forgotten about. Or they can be more than that. As a human, I have a limited time on earth, a limited time to read, to spend time with my loved ones, to reach for my dreams, a limited time to do what I love. And I also have limited space. There is too much chaos in this world, and in my own private space, I would like to feel comfortable, to feel clean and organized, and feel free to express myself in ways that allow people to grow alongside me. Sometimes in chasing our dreams of being something and being influenced by the people around us, we fail to observe ourselves and our behavior. I mean, as we pick these phones and social media, we are more likely to see other people's faces than to see our own. And in that, we see ourselves through them, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because if you think about it, nature does not have a mirror, and even our reflection is not accurate, and we can never see ourselves truly. Now, this has totally gone too philosophical. Let's pull it back a bit. The point is, I don't wish to own a library with books that I don't want to read over and over and over again. Every book I pick up, I would like to annotate it like a maniac, to write my thoughts and observations and remember the lines of prose and poetry and recite them to my loved ones. I want that little kid that sees my library to not shy away from picking up that book and reading it with interest beyond the ownership of an object, but the ownership of the knowledge and the experience of learning it. I want to read a book in every stage of my life and see it in a new light each time that I do, and recognize the patterns in my behavior, in the way that I buy and that I read books. And I started tending to just write down how I'm feeling and what book I'm feeling and why I am reading the thing that I am reading. And this has brought up so many emotions and thoughts that I had never recognized before. So I guess I'm asking myself today, why this book? And maybe you too should ask yourself that question.